be free together by your side. And spend eternity in this lonely place we call home.
And welcome back, my lovelies, to the Blue Rose Respite. Oh, it has been a bitch of a day, but I am so glad to be here with you guys. Oh god, so who have we got in the chat? We have Shadowfang805, welcome back, great to see you. Fallout Kids 567, great to see you too, and Bot Commander. I hope all of you are having a good start to the week, or middle of the week. It's hump day, we're going to make it through this together. Oh gods, but it's okay, because we're all here together to unwind and relax after a long and crazy day. So, thank you so much for the host, Fallout Kid 567. Huh? Be ready for lots of passive aggressiveness to come out in this game. Oh lords. I'm telling you, Luke has something to do with this shit. I wouldn't be surprised. Sly, smug motherfucker. And I will never get sick of that weeb introduction. Never. I'll actually just be right back in a second. I just need to grab a bottle of water. So let's fucking do this, right? Where we last left off, we were in the beginnings of Rebecca's side of the story. She had taken on her parents' behalf an invitation to the Ermengarde mansion welcoming party, and after some tense discussions with Isabella, my apologies, my dear, we come to the end of a long school day for her. And let us see what tales shall unfold ahead of us this evening. All in all, the entire school day ends without a hitch. It could have gone better, mind you, but with the exams nearing, getting out of work before the sun has set looks as though it's a far-off dream for now. At least until they're over. Then we have the holidays to look forward to. There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being.
Nothing wrong with that.
All I'm hoping for is this will continue until the whole day ends. There's still that promise I made to Ashton, and frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to them, what makes them think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if only because I'm also worried about her, and both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get to the story out of her. Here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with that letter. Again. I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is... it's bound to get tiring at one point. Seriously, I merely don't want this to end in another argument. God willing, the cafe's special will help smoothen things out. After all, it's always been food with her. Or money. But mostly food. Hey, Garrett's back. How's it going, Garrett? Always glad to see you arrive to make sure everyone behaves themselves. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely go here during the evenings. Simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes. There really isn't much reason to eat out lately. What with life going on a busy streak. No time for long lines. Better spend that doing something productive, yes?
Lucky there isn't one tonight.
Only a few people are idling around the counter. 4 of them, in fact. A woman in her 60s and a teenager busy with his phone. Both are just waiting to be served their orders. Fucking perfect timing, right? The other 2, a posh-looking man and a child, who I immediately recognise as Kylie, appear to have not yet picked anything they want. For some reason, my stare lingers at the guy. I wonder why. I will say, he is an asshole, but he's damn good looking. Yeah, let those eyes linger, girl. They're dressed relatively well and looks harmless. I haven't seen him around these parts before. Someone new in the neighbourhood, perhaps? Even so, there's something familiar in him. Feels like I've seen him somewhere before. That also begs the question of why Kylie is with him. Of course, the girl easily takes a liking to anyone who buys her sweets, so it's both a bit worrisome and unsurprising. The blonde bloke doesn't look particularly thrilled with the company, though. I tear my eyes away from them soon enough, once the guy at the counter appears, ready to take my order. That, and I'd also hate to be accused of oogling strangers.
2, evening special, takeout.
He's already punching the order before I even finish. Saying my order out loud is really more of a formality stake than made out of habit. He's known Isabella and I long enough that if we ever drop by here, he already knows it's always because I'm buying dinner for the 2 of us. Fallout Kids 567 with 20 bits! Hey Steph, want to say hi to you in chat. I'm gone for a little while because I'll be in London for 2 weeks for my cousin's wedding before I leave. Want to thank you, Steph, and everyone here. Keep watching your video and I'll keep my hopes high. Remember, Steph, you're the best person I'll ever meet. Thank you and take care. See you all in August. Take care, Fallout Kids. I hope you enjoy your cousin's wedding. You and your family have been through a wild and quite insane ride these past few months, but I really hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time in London and enjoy the wedding. Take care, okay? I rarely visit here alone if I can help it, but Isabella can sometimes be a bad influence. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order, while I fish for my wallet when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
You said you'll get me some bread pudding this time.
Yeah, well, darling, they said they ran out of it. Just pick another one so we can be on our way.
That parfait doesn't look as cute as the one my mom bought me.
Parfait is just ice cream, sweetheart. It'll melt no matter how dainty it appears. In the end, it'll all look like an ugly puddle. Now come on, just pick one. It could even be the most expensive one on that list. I don't give a shit. Care, I don't.
Whoops.
Oh, what I would give for someone to buy you off my hands right now.
I agree, Shadowfang. Bread puddings are really nice, especially with custard or if it's still warm with ice cream. Now I want food. What? My whole attention instantly snaps back to... Oh no! Context is required! My whole attention instantly snaps back to them and their conversation. Jumping to conclusions isn't something I'm particularly fond of, especially when all I have are baseless assumptions, but you can't really trust a stranger these days. No one around the cafe seems to have noticed his words either. Very superstitious words. Still, I don't move. Yet. But my hand has already shifted from my wallet to the book I'm carrying. A hardbound textbook. Looks harmless, but if a situation calls for it, might be a good, deadly weapon. Might. I haven't gotten the chance to try it anywhere so far. Today could be the day.
But you promised.
Look, if you don't want a parfait, how about a Bonifay pie? I'm sure it'll taste just as good as any other bread pudding. I'll even buy you the entire tray. How does that sound?
That's not what you said before.
Well, sweetheart, adults change their minds sometimes.
You said if I come with you, you'll buy me a bread pudding, and I did. And now you won't keep your promise.
Oh, some context is required.
I want to go home. I miss my mom.
Context is required!
No, darling, if I remember correctly, and I have a good memory, honey. What I said was, if you come quietly with me, I might buy you one.
I want to shriek out from my balcony. Context is required.
The quiet part didn't happen.
Yeah, suspicious looking man. Luke is handsome, but he's also always looking suspicious. Look at this shit.
Though now that I'm sober, I think this is a bad idea. I should just ship you someplace else for that peace and quiet.
Oh my... Luke, you are like up to your neck in bullshit right now. Oh, that's it. No hesitation. In a few paces, he's within my reach, and without warning, I'm slamming the flat area of the book against his skull. Yes, Rebecca! There's a cry of pain, followed by him instantly crouching down, hands nursing the sore spot. Almost comically, if this were a different situation and the safety of a St. Goretti student isn't at stake, I'll probably feel sorry for him. I mean, has anyone seen how thick this book is?
Get behind me, Kylie.
Miss Pink!
It's amusing how fast her expression changes from the pouty one earlier to something that of utter delight upon seeing me. But there's no time for any pleasantries, not even quick ones, because soon the man straightens and I'm readying my favourite newfound weapon for another hit. Except this time, he's ready, and before I can land another one, his hand shoots up to catch my wrist in a firm hold. And the look on his face.
Bloody hell, woman, what's your problem?
To say he's pissed would be a complete understatement. Had I been the weak-willed sort, I'd probably cower under his sharp gaze. But that simply isn't how I roll. Oh, Rebecca, I fucking love you. If he thinks he can scare me and do as he pleases here, just because I'm a woman or whatever his reasons may be, he's got another thing coming for him. So instead, I returned it to him with the same intensity, with the same venom.
What's my problem? You're the one who has a problem here. Rotten bowbags like you don't deserve the freedom to run this town. What are you doing to this girl?
And why is that any of your business, pray tell?
Oh, it's my business if I make it to be. Now, release me or I'll call the police.
You think that scares me, Daisy?
I have a name, you sleazy douchebag.
Oh, Rebecca, let it rip, girl!
Oh, I'm sure.
His grip on my hand only tightens when I attempt to shake it off. His tone may be dripping with anger and sarcasm, but the gleam in his eye says it all. He's getting a kick out of this. Riling people up, getting on their nerves, invading their personal space. He knows exactly what and which buttons to push. The nerve of this person. The nerve of this asshole. If he thinks I'm going to give in to his goading, please, he might as well just kiss his sorry behind. In fact, why not do the most sensible thing right now? Teach him a tough lesson. Okay, you've made your statement with smacking him in the side of the head with the book. In a situation like this, when you think you've got a possible child abductor, you shout for help and you get as many people's attention as you can, I think.
Let me go, you uncouth lout.
Or else what?
Carrot! Not helping! Kiss him! Now's not the time! Not in front of the child!
I'll scream.
He laughs, a derisive thing that rankles on my temper more than has any right to. It's as if he knows I can't do anything, or he's above any authority that exists in this city, confident he can get away with anything. The call of this man. I'd like to punch him right now if I can.
Nice try, lady. Why don't you drop the book first? You could kill people with that, you know.
Fat chance.
Oh no, that attitude won't do, Daisy. Here, let's try that again, like the proper adults we both are. Drop the bloody fucking book.
And then what? If you're assuming I'm...
Then we'll have a nice conversation over a cuppa. Establish why you're attacking a poor, innocent stranger with a deadly weapon. Then maybe weave in an apology or two for the offended party afterwards.
Luke, you're such an asshole.
I'm the offended party here, by the way. My brain hasn't returned to its rightful place yet, in case you're wondering.
Innocent! Don't play dumb! I heard what you were trying to do with that girl. Just because she isn't my student yet doesn't mean I don't have a role in protecting that child's innocence.
Protecting the what of who? Why would you... Oh, no.
Thank God you finally get it. In the span of a second, the expression on his face changes faster than anyone is capable of. From pure confusion to sudden realization before finally deciding on a face of utter mortification. Good! Yeah, fucking feel bad! He's quick to drop his hold on my hand afterwards, like he's been holding a piping hot object and just realized it's in his hands all along. He's far from a decent person, but he actually might make good money doing comedy. The look on his face when he starts babbling his excuses is almost priceless.
No, this kid's... Alright, lady, look, it's all a misunderstanding.
My tone can't go any flatter than the one I have now.
Right. Somebody help me!
He places a hand on my mouth before I spill the rest of it, and all at once, I'm caught between trying to stop him from smothering me and keeping his dirty hands off me. And even as my nails dig deeper into his wrists, he doesn't appear to have any intention of letting me go. Being loud works, however. Soon the attention of practically every customer seated in the small establishment is on us. I shoot each of them an imploring look, hoping one of them will have the sense to help. The sleaze, however, is fast enough to flash them all an embarrassed smile.
Haha, this lady's having such a bad day. Poor girl's just been through so much today. Nothing to see here. Go on with your dinner.
Bad day? Even if this were a friendly chat, I wouldn't even touch you with a 10-foot pole, much less share any of my problems with you. Blighter, you're my problem. I want to blurt it out, but with a hand covering my mouth and my lungs rapidly losing air. I bite down on his hand. Yes, I'm so happy with you, Rebecca. Hard. It works. He yowls, jerks his hand away from my face, stepping back to put as much distance as he can between us while nursing his injured hand against his chest and muttering a string of very creative set of expletives. Tears have formed at the corner of his eyes from the pain, and a small laughter almost leaves me. To be frank, he gives the impression of a kicked puppy with the glare he shoots me. A puppy I'm less inclined to feel sorry about.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass.
I love you, Rebecca.
Why this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here, hmm?
You despicable! Whatever you're assuming I am, I'll have you know it's all in your head. None of it's true. You best have that pretty brain of yours checked before that gets worse. What is wrong with you? Is this the face of someone who'd do anything suspicious?
Yes. Yes, it is, Luke. You just have one of those faces that's both incredibly handsome and incredibly punchable.
Oh? You don't think a stranger luring an innocent child with promises of sweets before whisking them away from their parents doesn't warrant any suspicion? You have a very funny definition of suspicious, asshole. Maybe you're the one who should have that head of yours checked.
The kid asked me to buy her sweets. You're the one who's suspicious here. I'll have you know, I have a wife.
That much, at least, appears to have a sliver of truth to it. He even makes a show of brandishing his left hand to my face with much flourish. Sure enough, a wedding ring is there, although all that earned him is an unimpressed glare from me. Immediately, a small part of me starts to feel sorry for whatever, poor woman married this sod. I don't understand why he has to bring her up either, as if the mention of her alone will magically present a solution to his problem. She must truly be a remarkable woman, if she can handle a dirtbag like him.
And even my wife of all people in this bloody city, has never, I'm telling you, accused me of such a scandalous thing! You crazy woman!
Married or not, you're still a sleaze. Honestly, I feel...
Miss Pink, Why are you fighting with my teal?
Whatever words still left to be said here dies on my tongue. The same thing goes for the sleaze. Beside us stands Kylie, gawking at us with the same curious stare she often brings with her. I know that look all too well. A precocious child through and through. She doesn't say anything further. Her gaze simply moves between us, eyeing us both carefully, clearly anticipating an answer. From my experience, when it gets like this with children her age, it's a sure sign they won't leave you until you've given them an answer they're satisfied with. Lying won't do either. It has dissolved into a shouting match, for heaven's sake. And did she just say Tio? Something falls straight into the pit of my stomach at that. But my tone is gentle when I finally address her, void of any apprehension and what might be the first hints of embarrassment. I pointedly ignore the latter. It can very well be just the hunger speaking.
Kylie, sweetie, do you know this oaf?
Yeah, he's Teal Luke.
Right at the moment, my brain stops. Every line of thought, every argument I still had against the man beside me dissipates in a haze. Amidst all of it, one memory gets triggered, from a few days ago.
Tio? The one you mentioned before? The uncle? The guy Rowan wanted to impress? Or was that a dare? I'm sorry, I can't recall. Is it the one who promised he'll take Big Brother someplace cool?
Yeah, the one and the same. Don't you know who he is?
I sure as hell don't, darling. Because if I do, I wouldn't have let everything I said earlier come out of my mouth.
He's my Teal Luke. Gazillionaire extraordinaire, am I? No, the fairy godfather.
Oh, he's your godfather. That's nice.
The one and only. Did I get that right, Tio?
More than right, sweetheart.
You smug fuck.
I'm sure Miss Pink here understood everything you said quite perfectly.
Fuck you. Whatever it is that landed at the bottom of my stomach prior has shot straight up to my face and stayed there. The heat from it slowly spreading to my cheeks, colouring my face in almost the same shade as my hair. If only the earth would swallow me whole here and now. His eyes are on me. I can feel them, jeering, mocking. Can't even bring myself to look at him. What's in there? Amusement? I doubt it. He's probably having the time of his life right now. But I know. I can hear the sneer in his tone alone when he talks. He has that smug grin on him, which I may or may not want to punch off his face at present, just for the hell of it. But damage control. I need to do some damage control before this whole thing goes south. Fuck Luke. Of course, an apology is the most appropriate thing to say. But no matter how much I will myself to do it, my own body refuses to budge. My own mouth refuses to open and my head rejects the very idea of looking at him. No apology for an asshole. Not to someone with an ego too big for his head. Let his pride suffer. I'm not going to eat my words for the sake of stroking his damn ego. Less reason for him to gloat. Kylie, however, I owe an explanation.
Don't worry, Kylie. I'm not fighting with your Tio. This is just, a discussion. A very serious discussion between a very mature adult and one that's not.
Really? But I've never seen Teal angry before.
It's because he's losing the argument.
Oh, Rebecca, I love you.
But don't ever follow his example, Kylie. You should always learn to be patient, even if things aren't going your way, okay?
Oh sure, a discussion. And it involves hitting random strangers you meet at a cafe with a book.
Yes.
A hard-bound book.
Yes.
Mind you, my hand is still smarting.
Good.
If I end up with rabies from this, we are going to have more than words, woman!
I don't allow Kylie hear this triad and cover both of her ears with my hands. As fond as she is of the man, there are words he shouldn't be saying in front of a child. How can he not know about that? More importantly, how on earth did someone like him become a godfather? Who allowed it? Maybe I should talk to Mrs. Suarez about it? Warn her how it's not a good influence for her children.
Language! How use such crude words in front of her. Your goddaughter can hear you, for heaven's sake.
Oh, and you didn't. If I remember everything correctly, you called me a rotten beau.
So you're going to repeat it in front of her, just to make a point? What, are you 5? Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
Even Isabella, I can say that with much certainty.
Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
See what I mean?
Are you fighting again?
Oh, no. Like I said, we were just having a discussion. We're actually done now. But you need to promise Miss Pink you will never grow up like this guy. Good kids don't do what he's doing.
But I like Tio.
And I'm quite sure Tio likes you too. But liking people is different. Just because you like him doesn't mean you have to be like him. There are better role models for you aside from him.
Like you?
Not exactly what I'm trying to get at, but if that's what you want, I don't see why not.
Okay, I want to be like Miss Pink someday. I want to be a teacher, and I promise I won't be like Tio, even if he's a gazillionaire.
Wow, turning my own goddaughter against me. How mature of you, Miss Pink.
His tone makes me pause. The first time since this talk started, I look at him. Briefly, something flashes behind his eyes. Something close to what might be an expectation falling. Dismay? I can't be sure. It passes almost as soon as it appears. What's that about? Does he actually like having Kylie around? Doesn't seem like it from the get-go. But if that fond smile on him is anything to judge by, then maybe.
Don't worry, Tio. If you buy me bread pudding tonight, I'll like you again.
Oh, if that's all it takes, consider it done, sweetheart. We might have to find another place to buy it from, though. Somewhere safe, where a random crazy woman isn't going to attack us out of the blue. Let's go.
Okay. Bye, Miss Pink. I still like you, just not more than Tio anymore. See you.
Kylie's already pulling him to the cafe's exit before I can protest on it. Although it's not like there's anything to object on further. I may view that man, Luke, as someone hateful, maybe to the point of seeing him as an eyesore, but I don't think that'll have any bearing on what the child thinks of him. When you think about it, if she admires him so much like that, then maybe there's still something agreeable in him. I agree, Shadowfang. Oh god, such cuteness. Over 9,000 cuteness. A part of him only Kylie sees. He still has the gall to wink at me before they both disappear behind the door, so maybe not. However, there's no moment to ponder about it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and hands me a paper bag as soon as I've paid. He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally, I return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I won't at all, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, albeit from a person I barely know on a personal level, feels like a reassurance, despite bearing no promise of better days. I take what little I can get of it, and I can get of it with me, and I step out into the night. A cloudless night greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is some place outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once with her in her mum's hometown, and another time in the university she used to attend. Then, she asked if it's possible to try out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton, though up until now we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know? Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me. The fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance of the people he's with. Oh. Kylie's sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. And beside him must be his wife. That's not his wife. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that, it's a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. After having such an eventful day, anyone will think nothing will surprise me anymore. But here I am, standing at the top of the stairwell, watching an odd scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind first, followed by confusion.
What is she doing there?
Although, given what's happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. What's important is Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway, just right in front of her room, with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick scan, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, it looks like a mess being made by a third grader working on crunch time. The landlady will have a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about this myself, in fact. But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself at present keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with this intensity. Her brows are furrowed, lips in a tight line, both hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone to call someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call, then after the last one ends, she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. Is it work? I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I reached our floor. After the 9th call, she still appears as oblivious to it when I've arrived. When she lets out a loud sigh this time, I immediately take it as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once, her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse it before speaking again.
Becca, you're late.
Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. Yet, it doesn't reach her eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time. Just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something's happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've gotta finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done. Thanks, Becca.
You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react. Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there.
I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise.
That has never bothered you before.
Well, it bothers me now.
Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes, a surefire indicator this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again. Sly Feline, thank you so much for the subscription! Dude, thank you! Really appreciate it. You're so awesome. And hey, GentlemanPhilosoraptor's here! Welcome back! Oh, so good to see you guys. Woo! So many awesome people tonight. It's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight at all costs. Still, I made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps this all to herself, who knows what might happen.
Isabella, you can tell me.
And yes, Sly Feline, feel free to get to know the people in the chat. They're amazing, wonderful, friendly people. And of course, welcome to the Blue Rose Respite. So glad you could join us this evening.
Is it about your family?
A slight movement of her lips. Although a frown, it's a reaction at least. I'm getting there.
Rose?
She merely shakes her head. Just a little more.
Come on, I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me. Does it have something to do with work? Office?
Hey, Cat Skater, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Rose Respite. Great to see you again, girl. If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. She shifts then, her fists clenching tight and teeth biting her lower lip. And there's fear. The look of terror in her is the last thing I expected to see out of anything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens them. When she finally voices it out, the words simply spill out of her mouth. One after another. All of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she's been keeping to herself, even from the two most dependable people I know. The fact she chooses to tell me this speaks a lot more to me.
Becca, she was there again. Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's workload yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then, when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again. She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me, Becca, she almost did. If she saw me under my table, I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
Oh, Isabella. By the end, her hands are trembling and her breathing comes out in rasping intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, let her sobs fill it instead. But even as her soft whimpers die down minutes later, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. From my exasperation over this whole matter, from my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, when she could all do us a favour and grow a backbone. She may be young, but she's no longer that young. It's about time you put an end to this. She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. What if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to help to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid for her, for what kind of imagination will do to her, than of what some imaginary monster could. But with the manners she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation in it, a hope and a plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, then what am I supposed to say now? What she wants to hear, what she needs to. Okay, Becca, this is very delicate. Like, she's clearly deeply distressed. Like, don't badger her or, like, put her down for what she was scared by. Come on. Like, you're amazing, but God, you're blunt sometimes. As much as I want to set her straight, a reprimand isn't what she needs right now. With that pouty face she's giving me, I doubt it will even end well if I push it. I know her. When she wants to be stubborn, she's stubborn. There are moments when she can be acquiescing too, Times when she'll be more accepting of what I tell her, despite her inclination to disagree with it. That talk can wait. In the meantime, I'll be the ear that listens to her without judging her, without criticizing her, despite my own opinions on it.
You should have called me.
She stares at me like I've grown another head, and the laughter slips out before I can stop myself.
There? I can't do that! What will you do? Hit her with a book? You'll be dead before that happens. And
That isn't what I'm talking about. After you got out, you should have phoned me. You didn't have to go to Zachary's.
The corners of her mouth curl up, a sheepish smile, by general definitions, but this is Isabella. Her smiles are never half-hearted, never lacks her high spirits. In spite of this, I know everything's going to be okay. Somehow. After all, she's learned how to pick herself up long ago, long before we met.
oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't even remember how I ended up in Zach's place. I was in a hurry to get out of the office, and it was already late. Besides, I don't really think you'll believe me if I wake you up over something like that.
That's beside the point. True or not, there are people who will always be concerned about you. There's Zachary, but he's the first person you went to, and you didn't tell him anything. You just slept there. There's Ashton too, and me. But how do you think I'll be able to explain to your aunt or your family if you suddenly disappeared? Think about that.
Right. I'll remember that next time.
Then she grins. Playful and mischievous, preamble to an old banter. It's not quite there, still not quite her usual self, but with it, I know we're bound to get her back soon.
Mom!
I told you not to call me that.
I send an elbow to her side for added measure, but when laughter follows the familiar gesture, none of it is unexpected. This is what's comfortable. This is how we found an equal ground despite our stark differences. So, for the moment, I accept things as they are. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet, in this moment, as she fiddles with the edge of another paper near her, as she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger on her, feels strangely fitting. It's as if this is where everything's supposed to lead if we're allowed it long ago. Seconds later, the moment is broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging for some little peace.
How many times have I told you girls not to loiter around the hallway? It's noisy. Some people here are trying to sleep. Quiet down or go do your talking inside. I'm pinning a memo to your door the next time this happens. Millennials.
Boo!
Sorry, we won't do it again.
You'd better.
The door closes and Isabella starts gathering the mess she's made, carefully stacking them all in her arm. At a loss for what to do, I help her pick them, and for the first time, I get a closer look at it. Completely unintentional, of course, but it catches my attention nevertheless, and a confused frown makes its way to my face. Why is she looking through this? I look to her for an explanation, but she merely ignores the question in my eyes, takes the paper off my hands, and finishes cleaning up. The last paper she puts on top is a letter. The one she supposedly found in the mansion and what's probably the root cause of this odd behaviour. I shoot her a questioning look for that too. But all she gives me is a smile. And in a halting tone, so completely unlike her.
Becca, I'll find a way out of this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Anyways, I should go. I'll see you later.
Where are you going?
Getting myself some food. Don't wait for me.
Isabella walks away before I can stop her. Before I can remind her, I've brought food enough for the two of us. She quickly disappears down the stairwell, while I'm left standing in an empty hallway, holding 2 bags of takeout. One of them will go uneaten tonight. Just an innocent passing thought. One that I don't dwell on much as I head back to my room. I ignore all of it, in the same way I've assumed I won't ever encounter that douche again. Are you sure about that? The brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can get with the worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up since that last talk we had in the hallway, and the dinner I've brought has since been given to a different neighbour before it spoils. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might simply be one of those. Although, it's often with a message saying exactly where. But it's the dour note she ended our last chat with that gnaws.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance in the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxburn is a small city, relatively speaking. Compared to, say, London or Glasgow, it's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. Those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or ride-in subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, it has to be Tio fucking Luke I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow. Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course. I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble, but darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
Oops. His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered the corridor for the primary's career day. It's not that he stands out. He's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with, all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
A single glance at him and I know immediately that, one way or another, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air. The sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in between. I'll gladly do the honour of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now, I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded a good idea. Oh, Sly Feline, that's so sweet of you to say. Garrett, you're very nice to me, even though I've never joined the chat. You're a good mod, no mod confess to you. Dangerous words, Sly Feline. I have many amazing mods to help keep you guys in control. Under control, not in control, that's my job. I've no classes left today until after lunch. Could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lesson plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head in his chatter. He's a good man, but crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. So, the moment an opportunity arose, I jumped on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe stay around to assist if time will allow it. I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. With how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with this guy. He's insufferable, alright, but I've had my fair share of dealings with teens of, more or less, the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every bit of patience I have as I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me and attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. Garrett, no banning unless it's a serious offense. Or they break one of the rules. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top. But if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Garrett, did you just time out, Sly Feline? The thing is, I only know this because, like, you guys are friends of mine, so... No exploiting your privileges. Oh, god damn it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. It's okay, don't worry about it. Sly Feline and Garrett are just making fools of themselves in the chat. But so long as everyone's having fun, that's what matters. Seriously, how hard can it be? He's standing a few ways from the door. There's plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal.
I knew it's you!
Yay, hi Kylie! The force of it nearly throws me off balance, sending the items stacked atop the box tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight at my waist pinning me on the spot and both my hands occupied, watching is the only thing I'm able to do. Short seconds in between slows as everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor. Careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess here. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise. Then confusion. It is in that moment that instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me, before he can fully lift it off.
What are you doing?
What does it look like?
You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you?
Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work?
So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy?
Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I just say merely fly over his head? Were my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that, actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can says it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Tio's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
I'm still out of the opinion that he's a piece of shite, but I must admit, his goddaughter's excitement is contagious as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She has yet to budge from her place, though to be honest, I'm starting to lose some feeling in my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around it.
I'm sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
Oh, you wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammering for a bit, until he ultimately decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks of the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy.
Is Tio Luke blushing?
Not in a million years, not ever.
You, sir, are blushing.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you. Just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburg Police after you, woman.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now. My prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though I still have to ask...
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
Far-fetched idea, I know. But it's the only reason I can think of why this asshole's suddenly acting like a decent human. He's, quite frankly, far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why he's acting friendly 2 days later...
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd ever want to be chummy with in this whole city. But Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
As someone who also kind of likes black jelly beans, like, okay. I can get behind that.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
Yum. Could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't play Melody or Tukanko this morning, but I'm sure he'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year. And sometimes, several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there. Familiar, though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by the fact. Though it makes me wonder how much of it is real, and how much is there to mask the loneliness if there's even one. Michael, awesome! Michael Awesome K, thank you so much for the subscription! Holy shit, thank you! Oh, welcome to the Blue Rose Respite! Feel free to get to know the people in the chat. It's so wonderful that you could join us this evening, and thank you! Thank you so much for the subscription. Oh, you're awesome! Thank you, and be sure, now that you've subscribed, you can join us on the Discord server for the after party. Everyone would love to get to know you and Sly Feline, I'm sure. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked that douche, they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today.
Is Hana unwell?
Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping.
What's happened to Hana?
That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't doubt the cockle, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child. Unless you've made a promise of some sort, she never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone wherever she is. Buy her a few things and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. Can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome. Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, Douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shite given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
Are we gonna pull up a chair and get real with Tio Luke?
I don't.
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
He's not wrong.
Tia married you.
Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically. But it's not the same thing.
A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague expression. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before, on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. I think her head's really large because anime! Anime style hair. Hence why her hair is a lovely shade of natural blue. And why Rebecca's is pink. And I don't know if she dyes it to just coordinate her outfit and her pink eyes as well. I'm just writing it off as anime! Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both his hands on either sides of her shoulder. Kind is the last word I'll ever use to describe the man, but in this minute, there's a smile on his face I can't place. Tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia,
Tia was already a great person before she met me.
Yes, she was.
She is?
She is, and was.
But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
I don't know, my hair is naturally pink and my eyes are naturally fuchsia. Oh, that would turn quite a few heads, but I'm sure you look stunning, my dear.
Well, Tia's much, much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions.
Oh.
And she's really, really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it.
Stop making me feel good feelings for Luke. He's being nice. It feels weird.
That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Yes.
Oh, leagues, Munchkin.
We're in agreement.
Way, way better than I'll ever be.
Stop making us feel feelings, Luke. Fuck you. For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I had not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The light shifted in his smile, from one that's tended to something wistful, like remembering a memory he has always been fond of, but has often kept to himself. And at the fleeting glance of it, a tiny, insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him. Then without missing a beat, he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder, in a gesture to end their conversation right then and there. Probably before he can say other things he's never intended to say, or a child is not meant to hear.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare clear in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with that that minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
Putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend the man. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say is just mere honest observations. Okay, he was actually really sweet with Kylie, so... yeah, you're good at handling her. Oh well, regardless of how he reacts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I've no plans on getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. Emphasis on might. The best treatment I can hope myself to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much considering how coarse his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I've expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego more, and even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is a sound resembling a squawk. Maybe that's him choking on his own pride. Can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy. My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. This will be an abomination.
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
According to my sister, long hair only gets in your mouth while eating. Too much of it gets oily and out of your hands to manage. My hair is exceptionally long, and I will agree that it is very difficult to manage, especially for work. I do have to wash it quite a bit, so I go through shampoo and conditioner quite a bit, but it is very, very lovely, and I do really love having long hair. At some point I thought about cutting it really short, but I can't bring myself to do it. But I agree, short hair does rule.
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth to it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I've prepared myself to say dissipates, lost in the moment in front of me. He has turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it. The words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk of self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled out of his arse. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier after all. Less room for mistakes, more of a dose for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you've already figured him out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet, it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what's underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those, yet his winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes, once you get a glimpse of what's beyond that machimo, emphasizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb, and the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around, with a few shared silence in between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for this reason. I can't resist throwing in a little compliment to lift his mood before leaving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Oh, bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
Oh. His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl when I meet it with matching perplexity. It has only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite thick, and I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
He was a ghost. Luke exhales, long and drawn out, his impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I've accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me, escapes me, but above my worries of offending the man is my own bewilderment. It was the spooks! Such spooks! I remember well enough what I saw that night, yet he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Oh, honey, what's happened? Kylie sobs reaches my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watches our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away tears creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend.
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, and then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff, while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
She won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Her reardy's going to start soon. I saw the prices Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah, just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of them of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'll leave this for the their homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against, before I ever think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just a part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of our foot against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for some end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Some time before we made the turn down the hallway, she has stopped sniffling and starts singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down.
Oh, that's not creepy. Probably to brace or calm herself, or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door's slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside, the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. No. Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms in my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the enduring things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no sign of abating, they only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it almost sounds like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of a reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from their classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of déjà vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door, with someone crying on the other side. My calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation doesn't bring any comfort. Putting up for this child beside me. I'm putting up for the child beside me, is the thick undercurrent of worrying trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath, then I nudge open the door. It It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat. And when I turn...
Kylie?
No.
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it is not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes. Calling. Beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. Of a world passing by in a blur and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There is no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck.
You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die.
I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughter again. Judging, mocking, taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers. Every digit gone cold, rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me!
Until darkness claims me and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have a morning to wait for you two.
My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them, just plain sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings, and myself as warmth steadily slips back into me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Just stay here and don't move.
No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I'm no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow on Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw in my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after the last day of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips from by hand over my shoulders, tense when never called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort. Or is this the 5th? Egad, what does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. Last time this happened, I passed it off for some lapse in my part, after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories. Centuries-old law passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my dad's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb, or hell, there's even one story about a demon baby. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing, if true. Though that doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile shakes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up, and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember where I've entered this person on my contacts list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eye zeroes in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence. Fellow history buff, apparently. We're after the same book, but in the end she's given it to me, under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and well, I haven't actually taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be done with a whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2 depending on how busy I am. Finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. Oh, excuse me. One moment I'm simply busy grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, and someone suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stops showing up at her flat, right after worrying reports pop up at the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My friend gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious where she's headed with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, 3rd generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No. Let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it to lead to this. She must not have lived here long, if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though, it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now. Living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is, oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
Must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things. See things?
No, wait. It's alright, I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that. This is a silly thing to talk about, especially between, what I assume, two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs in regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place is past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary, from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had built it, up to the point where it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on to Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished, even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser, in light of what little I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she's only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing detail in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusions to be formed with what we have. If we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. Might be something more to those stories. As absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us the letter might tell us something beyond what we know. Tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, plus the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay, as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. Like, what are you doing here? It's time to stop. You're being creepy around every female character in this game. However, all those good vibes disappear into a thin wall when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something about this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him, without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and returns to Kylie. Oh, Kylie, how's it going? She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with her tip of her shoe. Then, he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air by the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served by a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
Excuse me?
What makes you think I will?
Yeah.
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
Are you blushing? A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise we'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously in that department. On a different front, the offer for free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy dog guise, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared for the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Oh. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. For the way it's phrased, it sounds like the latter. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem World this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Sounds about right. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed, if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. Two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie and his actions alone. Kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I have only Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'd be busy this week, well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this. It's company that counts. We could be miserable together. But that's a problem, isn't it? He hates them. It's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If, by some miracle, he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. Oh, damn it. The thing is, Rebecca's got such confused feelings about Ashton. Like, yeah, you're gonna go home, you're gonna sit on your couch, and you're gonna wait for the guy you have got a serious crush on for a number of years to maybe come by. You ask him to a party that you think he's gonna hate. Or you go out to dinner with Luke Wright and Kylie. Because Kylie, she's irritating, but she's adorable, and she's very sweet, and this is a big thing for Luke. He's trying. He actually comes across like he's actually trying his fucking best to be halfway decent, even if he's an asshole. So I think we should go to dinner with Luke Wright. Because he's just so effortlessly charming, isn't that right, guys? Also, then we get more of Luke and Kylie. And they're really cool. Cute. In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are I'll only have to enjoy his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I'll make him an excuse. A sudden call from a friend or things to work on. Doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more towards the latter happening. Hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
You're adorable. You're adorable, and you are in such denial about it, dear. To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow, I have the strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that? Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. When he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acrobatic quips? Blah. It's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression and easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves, after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with that, and he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal was ever mentioned so far. So far, though, it's too early for those. And besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us, it becomes too much. I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it will be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably at Salem World by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him?
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decorations they have here. Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper-class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, Your Majesty. Figures he'd lose patience soon, already having grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
Bobfuck? Do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. It's coming out of his mouth. It can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap.
Oh, he was making a comment like calling a woman a prawn. Like, rocking body, but busted face. You're an asshole! Such an asshole.
Preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, that puts an end to that talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message? Check if I were home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down packed, I'll give him that. Oh, that rhymed. Seriously, how old is this guy? Yeah, actually, how old is Luke? Nah. Damn it. Find out later. Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, alright? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you can do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Apex Superstorm, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Rose Respite. I'm not sure if you're new or if you're returning, but either way, welcome. Glad to see you.
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer.
fucking flirt. Stop that.
Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
It's a cafe, you asshole.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
And you're really good at making those, aren't you? Yep.
He's not my boyfriend.
What's her name gonna be? Strawberry Martini? Whiskey? The words come out with more force than I've intended. By the time I've realized my slip-up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. Heat slowly crawls up my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
He does look a bit like a Malfoy, doesn't he? Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know. But in the next second, he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I've flipped a switch in him somewhere and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message from him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting and go after him.
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush.
Fuck you.
The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush.
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours. And your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity. Because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers.
Okay, that is fucking scathing apex. If someone said that to me, I'd reply, well, that suit matches your personality, bland and cheap. Oh! Oh, the salt. Oh, that was good. Gone, blah.
Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you?
Isn't that what being truly in love with a person is like? You lose sleep when they're not by your side, you want to be with them every moment.
Or putting everything you have aside to please them? To have your whole world revolve around one person?
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have.
And
Oops.
you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them?
Thank you.
Be with them? To have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said... And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have when compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? Oh, honey. Honey! Oh, you've got it bad. It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. Always been by his side, enjoyed everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger, says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20.
His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I've ever been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees right through me, and as expected, he ridicules it. Laughs, restrained, low and rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake when his mirth becomes too much even for him. He reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to him.
Lordy bullocks, this is just brilliant.
Fuck off!
Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has for me are more words. Scathing, each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity. Because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away, focusing his eyes back on where Kylie is. For a moment I believe I've won. Until he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time... Shadowfang with 500 bits? Holy shit, thank you so much! Don't know about you, but I need a drink. I do too. I had a lovely glass of white wine with dinner, and I'm drinking down water like it's manner of heaven. But, oh, I could use a stiff drink, and I think Luke and Rebecca could use one too. But thank you so much for the bits. It's very much appreciated. God, I'm ready for a shot just listening to Luke. Oh god, I agree. Another unspoken challenge, and I realised that if this happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. The anger is there, wringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together, we have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came in between us, I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it. That one day, he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. Rebecca, you don't have to answer that. However, those are for me to ponder on. This arse doesn't need to hear them. And neither is he entitled to them just because he dished out some profound-sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my own silence will be enough for an answer for him. And it is, for a moment. Up until warm, furious tears prickle behind my eyes, stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. Already expecting another barb from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned to utter panic. It would probably have been funny if I weren't so irked by the sight of this Glarket bastard.
Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry? Stop that right now, woman, or I'll...
Will you shut up?
Agreed! He clams up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force of my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. Seems like a deer caught in the headlights, with the way he's making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that? If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself!
It does do the trick. Not to the effect I've hoped, but the moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away, and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it's appreciated concerning it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that puts me in this state with a few awkward pats on the shoulder. Done twice. Thrice. And another. Until my patience runs out again and I'm pulling out the book from my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It'll surely dent his skull if it slams down at this height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has the good sense to recoil, though. Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck with work. Have a great time. I hope you have a really good time at work. So glad you could join us, and we can't wait to see you again at the Blue Rose Respite. Take care, okay? Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman! I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry!
Then keep your hands to yourself!
Alright, that's it. People these days, I swear you treat them nicely and this is where it gets me.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me, even if we're the only 2 remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards he doesn't say anything further. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hands when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. A waiter serves our meal soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table. But before I could take a single bite, he mutters something. Words spoken in the same tone he's used since this morning, all under his breath, whenever the honest part of himself would show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the man, I stop short of shoving food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. What comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you.
That is a genuine compliment, good sir. Thank you.
Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
That was almost a compliment. He spears a piece of his food, pops it into his mouth, and that's it. One whole day with this man, I still can't figure out what his deal is. But for what it's worth, as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. Like, look at that face. I completely understand how he can charm the pants off of people. He's very good when he's actively trying to be a good person. It's just that 90% of the time he's an asshole. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow, we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. Okay. I just wanted to finish up that scene with the dinner between the three of them, because it is quite late over here, so I'm unfortunately going to have to wrap up the stream here and now, and we will continue Rebecca's story later when we return for another Woeful Wednesday. So I apologize, Valtharis, that I'm wrapping things up now. I'm already a little bit over time, but I really wanted to finish up that beautiful scene. So I really hope you're able to make it to the next one. And thank you all so much for the new people who joined us tonight. And thank you so much for the subscriptions and for the bits. You guys are incredible. So a massive welcome to Michael Awesome and Sly Feline. Thank you so much for your subscriptions. They're greatly appreciated. As well as the amazing Apex Superstorm. It's wonderful to see you getting to know the people in the chat. So thank you all so much for joining me tonight. If you've been watching the show and you've liked what you've seen so far, consider hitting that follow button and click for notifications so you know when I go live. We would love to have you back at the Blue Rose Respite. Oh, thank you guys so much. Honestly, today's been kind of a nightmare for me, but you guys just make it all worthwhile. I love coming back, getting to hang out with you guys in the evening, sharing my time and my voice with you. So, can't wait to see you all again for Fantastical Friday. We're starting at the same time, 7:30 Greenwich Mean Time, as we embark in Quaria's adventures in Starbound. So, I cannot wait to see you all then. So, take care, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, stay wicked and wonderful. Good night.